My name is Tim Miloshevsky. I've been coming to Bethel for 49 years.
Wow, cool.
I grew up, I was one of 14 children. And at a young age, I started hanging around with the wrong crowd. Started smoking when I was young. Started drinking. It was about these 10 or 12 guys. And we used to go out, steal bikes, and bring them back and, ride them around. But we'd go to another town, And I remember I had a tendency to shoplift. And they caught me, of course. But, and I got in trouble. I skipped one day and they wanted to suspend me. So my mother went up to school and I said, well, I don't want to be suspended. I'm quitting. So I quit school, right? And I bummed around for about a year. And my father, he got really tired of it. And he chased me out of the house. I'm running down the street and he yells, "Get out of here, never come back." I said, so I did come back, but right after that, I joined the Navy. And that was another fiasco. But I managed to get through the 4 years in the Navy. I went AWOL the first year and went back. I got in trouble a few times, drinking, and drinking was always a problem with me. Finally, when I got out of the service, I got a job. A friend of my wife's husband was doing drywall. He said, "You want a job?" I said, "Yeah." So I started drywall. I was at work. We were sitting around lunchtime, and I was saying very derogatory things about God. I went home. On the way home, my car overheated. So I parked it, and I went to turn the radiator cap, just loosen it so that the steam would come out. Well, it blew up on me. And I screamed and I ran back to the back of my house where the hose was, tore my t-shirt off, and I started hosing myself down. And just about that time, a guy came to the backyard. He says, "You want me to take you to the hospital?" I said, "Yeah." So he took me to the hospital, and I never said so many Hail Marys and Our Fathers in my life. And I got out of there, and I didn't have any marks on me. That's amazing. And then I went to a Billy Graham crusade up in New York Shea Stadium, and me and my wife went forward after the service, and this guy came up, and he was talking so fast I couldn't understand a word he was saying. And we left there, and they sent me these books of John. They sent me several times, and I read them. Did the back, at the back says, "Have you accepted Christ?" I said, yeah. But my life didn't change. And a fella from Bethel, actually, he called me because my brother was doing some work for him. And he wanted me to do the drywall in his house. So I went, and the guy comes in, and we got to talking. He said, "Why don't you come out to church, Bethel?" So I did. And after the service, it was a Dr. Ogina, who was a preacher at that time. He came up to me, and we're talking. I'm sure he's asking me questions about salvation and all that, but I didn't hear anything other than, he says, "Well, even the devil believes there's a God, and yet he trembles." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "You mean it's more than just believing God?" And he says, "Yeah." So I went home and started reading the Bible. I started in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And when I got to John 3, it talked about being born again. And it was like the pages, words opened up. And I said, "God, please come to my heart and save me." And he did. And I started going to church. And my life, changed for a while. And I kind of drifted back into my old lifestyle. And the drinking was getting out of hand. And I was drinking and driving all the time. And a couple of times I thought of committing suicide. I mean, that's how bad it was. And I remember going out into the woods, and I kind of tried to loosen the tailpipe, muffler, and I sat in my car and waited, and doesn't a pickup truck come riding through the woods? I said, "Oh, I can't." So I started up and took off, right? So I went to another part of the woods, and did the same thing. And I'm sitting there, all of a sudden, doesn't another truck come? So I left there, and by that time, I was almost out of gas. So I went home, and that was it. That was that. I also found out that I had COPD, and I was really down, and I didn't have any job, and finally I I heard about new casino down there, building a new casino, and they wanted drywall guys. So I did it, applied, and I got the job. So I was working there about 2 months, and I would listen to Christian radio every morning. And about like 2 months into this job, I'm driving down there, and it was like God spoke to me. Now, God doesn't speak verbally, you know that, but He impressed upon me that He wanted me to quit this job because I did have a gambling problem too. I have to mention that. So I went in, I quit the job, and on the way home, I'm having second thoughts, and I decided to get my truck inspected. So I stopped at the motor vehicle, and a girl come walking towards me, and she had some religious something on her shirt, and I said, "Are you a Christian?" And she said, "Yeah." I told her, I said, I just quit my job. I was making $30 an hour, and I must have, really messed up." And she said, "If God told you to quit that job, that's the best thing you could have ever done." And I went home and was, laid around for about a week, and I'm laying in bed, and God again woke me up and impressed upon me that He wanted me to go to Keswick that morning. Finally, I said, "All right." So drove up there, and it's dark, and I'm sitting in the parking lot. So I started thinking, maybe this was a mistake. And I went to turn the key on in my truck, and a verse came to my mind. It says, "He who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not worthy of God. And I says, "All right, God, I won't leave." So just about that time, I saw a guy in one of the doorways, because they had glass doors, and went over to him, and he showed me the way. And then after about a week or so, they called me. My wife drove me up there, and I was there 3 months. I couldn't smoke, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do anything. So anyway, I was there 4 months, and like I said, I graduated. And the very next day, I smoked a cigarette, right? And my daughter found out, and she had a nervous breakdown. And we had to take her to the hospital. And, but I guess I was so selfish that I didn't even, I didn't stop smoking. I should have, but I didn't. And ended up, I started drinking again. So I figured, I really was going to commit suicide this time, because I was very depressed, because here I am, all 4 months there, and here I'm back smoking again, drinking, and doing all my other crazy things. And my daughter had a friend of hers over on Sunday, and he invited me to go to church up the street. And I figured, it's just a church meeting. I go. Well, the next morning, that Monday, I went with him, and here it was an AA meeting. I went home, and I'm thinking, this isn't real. They don't have God in their lives. And I was, trying to refute it. But again, just about a week or so later, I'm laying in bed around midnight or 2:00 in the morning. God wakes me up. He said, "I want you to go to that meeting tonight. You're an alcoholic, and your life is out of control." And I said, "All right, God, all right." And I went. And during the meeting, I stood up. I said, "I'm Tim, and I'm an alcoholic, and my life is definitely out of control. And so far, I've been sober 21 years. So smoking and the gambling still carried on, though, and other bad habits. My COPD, it was getting worse. I retired, and on October of 2015, I got double pneumonia. And before this, I had asked God, I said, "God, help me stop smoking. These things are killing me, And I thought to myself, all I need is like 5 days without a cigarette. So don't I get double pneumonia, and I end up in the hospital. And I was in the hospital for 5 days, and I stopped smoking in the hospital and haven't had a cigarette since. And then the gambling, that stopped in 2004. Finally, it's been about 8 years now. I committed to, coming here, and slowly I see my life started to improve. God used that, to eventually wake me up. And my wife helped me overcome these bad tendencies I had. And it just transformed, like I was argumentative with her. That stopped completely. I was I stopped smoking, and like I said, I got drunk, and gambling was gone, and it was just, amazing how God had finally, help me through all that. But the main thing, I think, is I had to believe that he would help me. I had to believe, he said, so I always said, God, I believe, help my unbelief, So basically that's how my life went.
Yeah.